Hi everybody, this is Peter Goebel with the Colorado Climate Center at Colorado State University. Today I'm going to walk you through a quick look at snowpack conditions throughout the state of Colorado. Now what is snowpack? That is the amount of liquid water in your column of snow that's sitting on the ground in the upper elevations. And this is important because it feeds into our streams and reservoirs and helps us build up the water supply to get through the summer. It's a timely update because snowpack typically peaks for the Colorado Rockies right about this second week of April. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at conditions starting in the Yampa White and North Platte River basins, and we'll go around the Horn and eventually look at the southern Rockies and some of the conditions along the Gunnison and Colorado main stem. So starting with the Yampa White and North Platte basins, we see that following this red line, which is the current year's snowpack accumulation, we've had a little bit of a below average winter, but this last week really boosted things, and we're now at above 90% of normal for this region. The normal line, or the average line, is this dark blue line, and then the median, which is similar, is the black line. That's your 50th percentile. Now these traces that you see throughout the graph that are shaded, that's the minimum year on record, 10th percentile, 30th, 70th, 90th, and maximum. Now if you're wondering what these colored lines are that go past the current water year time series, you have, if we were to continue along the path of the minimum year from this point on, that's what the red line shows. The blue line shows the maximum. Then we have 10th, 30th, 50th, 70th, and 90th percentile. As you can see, we're right about at the point in the season where we expect snowpack to peak. Things are getting warmer, and more of this precipitation is going to fall as rain. And with these high sun angles, the snow is going to start melting like crazy, as you can see from the average traces for the next 2 months. If we had a good year for the at least next couple weeks, we could peak above average for the Yampa White and North Platte. A bad year, certainly we'd stay below average. The forecast is looking pretty good, so we might have an average peak looking at what we expect over these next couple of weeks. So we're going to look at similar graphics for basins around the rest of the state. Now let's take a look at the South Platte Basin. This is the basin that much of the population of Colorado resides in. This is where the Denver metro area is. And once again, you really see that this last week was probably the best week of snow we had all year. We had a really good week around Christmas as well in the South Platte Basin. It was a drier March than we would have liked to see, and dry late February, but things have rebounded recently. We're close to average, and if we have a good forecast, we could peak near average. The South Platte Basin, you'll notice, actually peaks near the end of April. Some of these SNOTEL sites or weather stations that measure snowpack are a little higher elevation in the South Platte, so we would expect to see the peak a little bit later. Now if we look at the Arkansas Basin, things start to get a little bit more concerning. You can see that the Arkansas Basin had by far its best week of the year. Just last weekend, snowpack really boosted up. They were on track to be perhaps the lowest snowpack year on record, and they got a nice late boost. The forecast is looking like they probably won't peak any higher than this, but if they had a way above average year from this point on, a peak year that is around average is still possible, but I wouldn't count on it. And then if we look at some of these lower projection lines, it looks pretty abysmal actually. It looks like snowpack could be quite a ways below average. Now we'll take a look at the Rio Grande River Basin, and as you can see, the last week was not nearly as good for the Rio Grande. We've begun the ablation or melting process. Snowpack peaked just below 50% of normal. That's in the bottom 10 percentile of years, and if we had a normal year from this point on out, we wouldn't get out of that bottom 10 percentile. The San Juan and San Miguel, Dolores, and Animas River Basin group Wasn't ever the lowest on record, but did have a very poor snow year. You see that we got off to an insanely poor start in December and November and the beginning of January. We had some good moisture in the San Juans in February, but that was about all she wrote. And then over the middle of March, we had a little bit of a boost to snowpack, but it looks like things have peaked and the ablation process is really going now, and we probably won't get out of that bottom 10 percentile in the San Juans either. Very concerning from a drought standpoint. Looking at the Gunnison, they've likely reached their peak already too and tracked sort of along the minimum snowpack year. Once again, it was a very poor snowpack year for the Gunnison River Basin. Luckily, from a drought standpoint, this is following a very good year for the Gunnison River Basin. And if they have a good year from this point on out, they may still achieve another peak. It's unlikely, but it could happen. Likely stay in this bottom 10 percentile for the Gunnison River Basin as well. Now we'll take a quick look at the Upper Colorado River main stem, and once again we go back to some more positive conditions here as the Upper Colorado River Basin, especially near the headwaters in areas like the Grand County area and Summit County. We saw some really, really nice snow over the weekend, some of the best conditions that we've had all year. Things are running about 85% of normal now for the Upper Colorado River main stem. The forecast looks all right. We may have yet to see where things peak for this season. We'll find out over the next 2 weeks, but we should be somewhere probably between the 10th and 50th percentile, tracking right around 30th percentile conditions for the year. Not great, but not terrible. So that's all we have for our snowpack update. Thank you so much for listening.